ready to talk about level 3 of the 4 levels of motivation. This is the level of love and respect.
So, it's interesting because all of these levels build onto each other, right? So love and respect, we do things because we love somebody, and we know that they would want us to do it or something like so. You might take, for example, I feel very patriotic towards my country, and I feel very also. I don't know if patriotic's not the right word, but I feel very proud of my state. And so there are laws, and I follow the laws because I love my country and my state, and I want them to continue to exist and be what they are. So even simple laws like traffic laws, like following the speed limit, I do that.
You don't do that for fear of consequences.
No, but interestingly, I'll say this. This is really fascinating because the very first thing I do when I see a police car is slow down.
So you do have
Then
fear of
I
consequences.
then I check my speed, and I'm not a speeder, so I don't drive fast, and so then I usually speed back up to the speed limit. So the fear of consequences there. It's definitely there if I see a police officer. But I do try to follow the law because I care about the country that I live in and the state that I live in, and I care about it, and so I try to do follow the laws for that reason. Some people follow the laws simply out of fear of consequences, and some people follow the law because if you're in Wyoming, you might follow the law for a desire for a reward when it comes to speeding. Because in Wyoming it's seatbelts. Wyoming, if you wear your seatbelt and you get ticketed, you get a discount from your ticket for wearing a seatbelt. But you can't get ticketed for not wearing a seatbelt.
Interesting.
So Wyoming has a very different set of laws that is based more on.
Or at least when you lived there, that was the.
Yeah, at least when I lived there. I don't know if that's the case anymore, but the law, the seatbelt law, was based on a reward system rather than a consequence.
Interesting. All right, so we started out talking about consequences and rewards by talking about where they go wrong.
So that's an interesting thing. How can love and respect go wrong? Is it wrong to love and respect somebody or something?
Well, I assume you could love or respect the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're acting out of love for Fidel Castro, you're probably going to make poor life decisions.
Well, if you even think about this, inner city gangs.
Oh, that's probably a better example. Yeah,
there's a lot of love and respect that goes on, especially respect. I'm not sure about love. We'll put that aside, but definitely there's a lot of respect within gangs.
So another thing, a part of love and respect might be belonging, because the feeling of belonging is a love-respect feeling.
Right.
When you said gangs, my mind immediately went to West Side Story, to the opening number. When you're a jet all the way from your first cigarette to your last dying day. And they talk about how their sense of belonging to the group, you've got brothers around, you're a family man, motivates the actions of the gang members.
Right.
That sense of this is my community, this is where I belong, these are the people I belong to. We know that belonging is incredibly powerful motivator. You often talk about people doing things for a sense of self-worth. No.
Yeah.
And that's made
exactly,
up of.
That's why.
And it's made out of belonging and
self-confidence.
Yeah.
Right. That's almost entirely why we do what we do. Is we do it because we want to build self-worth. And so gang membership is a very, very powerful sense of self-worth. Yeah. It gives you that, and so love and respect, you have to be very careful, because people that you love and respect, even good people, will sometimes try to get you to do things that you either don't want to or shouldn't do.
I think love and respect can also be used poorly when we try to play on the emotions of others, to manipulate them into doing what we want. We use our love and respect in a coercive manner, which is basically threatening to withdraw love from somebody if they don't comply.
Right. If you're using it as a threat, then that's never good. What about where you're trying to motivate yourself? Obviously, right, if you're using a gang membership or something like that, and you're trying to motivate yourself by having the wrong people, is there a way to misuse your love for Jesus Christ in motivation?
Well, probably if you don't correctly understand what Jesus Christ would want you to do in the given situation. There have been lots of crimes in history, war crimes and other crimes against humanity that have been committed in the name of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
People often talk about the Crusades as an example of that. Some of the conquest and colonization of the world has been done in the name of Christ in a way that was horribly cruel and oppressive to the peoples involved.
So
So
individually, that can become a problem too, where if we are using a misinterpretation of Jesus Christ to motivate our actions.
also, anytime that we're talking, which we talked about already, that none of these things should be coercive. They shouldn't be trying to force change on others. I don't know about coercing yourself. That might be a paradoxical term. I'm not sure whether it's possible, but yeah, you don't want to play on any of these things in an undue way, in a way that is not proportional, including love and respect.
Yeah, and the other thing about love and respect that I think is really important when it comes to self-motivation is that we have to be careful that we're not loving the wrong parts of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And which I think can be a really big detriment to people. Some people get to a point where they love themselves more than they love God, and then they become a stronger motivator than God is.
Yeah. Well, when you're studying classic literature, especially medieval literature and Renaissance even, one of the big focuses is this idea of well-ordered versus disordered loves. And the medievals, like Dante, saw all sin in terms of ordered versus disordered
As
love.
disordered love, right.
So if you read the Divine Comedy, you'll see that the people who are in hell, in the inferno, are people who love the wrong things.
Right.
And people who are in purgatory are people who have insufficient love for the right things.
Mm-hmm.
So they have good things, but they're falling short of where they should be.
Right.
And those who make it to paradise are those who have their loves orderly. And you can see almost any sin, almost any way of being off the correct path as being a disorder of love.
It's interesting because that story
The Divine Comedy?
Yeah, Divine Comedy is very much based on the motivation.
Yeah.
It's very much based on the motivation that these people had to do what they did. and like you say, the wicked people were people who loved the wrong things. They were still motivated by love and respect. They just loved and respected the wrong things. And the people who were in purgatory were people who loved the right things,
But their love wasn't sufficient.
but their love wasn't sufficient. They didn't have a strong enough motivator of love. They were motivated. They had other motivators that distracted them from the love and respect that they had for God and the good things. And so you can see, I think that's a really good illustration of love and respect as a motivator, and how it can be used for bad, it can be used for good, and it can be overshadowed by and distracted by other things that, like we talk about, the proximity of the motivation. So if you're distracted by rewards to the point that the love and respect is no longer close enough to you to be a strong enough motivator, then you end up acting out of a desire for a reward rather than out of the love and respect.
So how do we use love and respect in for our personal motivation?
So let's first kind of try to define a little bit what love and respect is.
Okay, let's do that.
So if we love somebody or we respect somebody or an entity, right? It's not always a person, because like I said in the beginning, I love the United States. I respect the country. So it can be an entity. It doesn't have to be a person.
Or you could love money. The love of money is the root of all evil,
absolutely.
according to the Apostle Paul. So
you can love money. So the thing is, when we're talking about love and respect, right? Desire for reward means a reward is anything that we want, right? Fear of a consequence is being worried about what's going to happen. And so love and respect is, I think it is a desire for the approbation of a person or entity. That's really what love and respect are. When we really respect somebody, we want them to approve of what we're doing.
Yeah. And it's also a desire for belonging with that person.
Right. Very good. Exactly. I think if you take those two things together, that really does kind of encompass what love really is.
In terms of motivation.
In terms of motivation, it's the desire to belong with and be approved of by a person or entity. To
be in favor with, perhaps you might even say.
Yeah, to be in favor with. That's a good way to put it. I like that. To be in favor with somebody is what love and respect is as a motivator.
In I believe it's in the Gospel of Luke, one of the few verses that describes Jesus Christ's childhood and growing up life, uses the phrase that he grew in favor with God and man. Mm-hmm. That's where I was thinking of the term in favor with. So that would be an example of the perfect love is being in favor with God.
Yeah, exactly. So then to answer your question, how do we use this?
Yeah.
To motivate ourselves, right? So I guess the first thing we would have to do is identify who we love and respect. Who is it that we want to? What was the word you just used?
Be in favor with.
Yeah. Who is it that I want to be in favor with? That's the first thing I have to be able to do. And once I've identified those persons, that person or persons or entities that I want to be in favor with,
then you should decide whether or not those are people that you should or entities that you should.
Right.
Is that well-ordered love?
You know what? It's interesting because I think in human development, one of the things that I teach is about the roles of identity, and in the childhood phase of development, you're learning how to identify heroes and take on the qualities of heroes. And I think this is the age where you really learn how to love somebody as a motivation. And so identifying the people that we want to be in favor with, and then like you say, identifying whether this person is good to want to be in favor with or not. Are they going to motivate me? Is my love for this person going to motivate me to do the things that I feel like I ought to be doing?
And since it's an entity or thing, like we said, love of money, you might want to think of what things you love as well as what people you love.
Mm-hmm.
So you might think, I love reading.
Mm-hmm.
You love basketball.
Right.
I love nature. You love... What else do you love?
Basketball.
Okay. So what's interesting about that is that you don't want to just say, is nature a good thing to love? But you want to say, is my love of nature well ordered? Is it in an appropriate place in my life?
How do you know if it's well ordered and in an appropriate place?
It's probably poorly ordered if I think that I want to not live in a house because I just want to live out in nature. I'm just going to build a little hut of sticks in the woods and go leave my family and go live in the woods.
So here's the way you can tell is two things. Number one, does it lead me to God? Does my love for nature lead me to have a closer relationship with God? Right? Mm-hmm. If it doesn't, then it's not well ordered. Any love that you have for anything that's well ordered should lead you closer to God. And then number two, does it hurt anybody else? The way that I love this thing, is it harming?
And I would maybe
anybody
even
else?
phrase that not just does it lead me to God, but is it currently? Because it might be that you have had times in your life where this particular love is more well ordered, and other times where it's less well ordered. You might say,
so you say
that when
is
you
it
were
leading me to God?
Yeah, is it currently leading me to God? For instance, you love basketball. When you were a teenager, how many hours a day did you play basketball in the summer?
Well, in the summer, 8 to 12. Probably.
8 to 12 hours a day. That is probably not well ordered. But it doesn't mean that that basketball doesn't lead you to God. No, but at that moment, you might have said, if you at that age had reflected, you might have been able to say, wow, basketball is crowding out some other things in my life. You might think of this as in terms of balance. So it's not necessarily about whether or not something should or should not be part of your life, but often about how much, to what extent, and at what times it should be part of your life.
Right. So the real thing, the real questions you have to ask yourself: does my love for this lead me closer to God, and does my love for this hurt anybody else?
Now, we're talking about things and people, and you were originally mostly talking about people. So if you said love is a desire for belonging and approbation, mm-hmm. how does that connect with loving things like basketball or nature?
Basketball. Think about basketball for myself, especially as a teenager. I was a star player for my high school. Did that give me approbation
and belonging? Yes,
absolutely. A ton of approbation and belonging. Even today, when I do get to play, which isn't very often, but when I do, there is a sense of belonging with the other people who are on the court playing with me. And I really enjoy playing with people who don't get to play very often and maybe are not as skilled, and I love to involve them. So I love to use it as a way to create belonging for other people now. And so I think definitely I have that. And if you think about belonging to a book club as a way to make reading a way of a way of belonging, or having friends that you can talk to about the books that you're reading. It creates belonging, and it creates this sense of approbation as you read books that that you're both or multiple people are excited about, you're talking about, right? You've got that sense of belonging and that sense of approbation that comes from that.
It's true. When we love something, we almost inevitably share it with other people.
Mm-hmm.
We talk to other people about it. We seek out other people who also love the same things that we love. So there's nearly always a personal component, even when we're talking about things.
Right.
That is a belonging component.
So, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna move on and ask about
that's
how.
what I was going to do.
Oh, so how do you use love and belonging as a motivation when dealing with motivating other people, like parents and children?
Okay. Can I?
You weren't going to move on to
I was
that.
going to move on to that. Yeah, I was going to say. So what we've done is we've identified how to identify who is going to be the person that we're going to use as a motivator for love and respect. But then how do we actually use that to motivate ourselves? And the way we do that is simply by finding out what would make that person happy. That's what we're trying to do. So if I identify that Jesus Christ is somebody that I want to, what's the word you used again?
Be in favor.
Thank you. I want to be in favor with Jesus Christ. So I find out what is it that Jesus Christ would have me do that would put me in favor with him. And then that's what I would do, right? That's how I would motivate myself. Be like, okay, I probably should run every day. I don't really want to run. Okay, what would Jesus want me to do in relation to running? And then I would find out. Read some scriptures. Find a scripture passage that talks about exercise. Oh, Jesus would want me to exercise. It says so right here. Or like we were reading today, and Paul says that your body is a temple and that you should take care of it. Oh, okay. I know that exercise is good for my body. And so I would find ways to make those connections between what I'm trying to do and what Jesus would want me to do. And if I can make that connection, all of a sudden, I've got a motivator. I might do the same thing with you because I want to be in favor with you.
Yeah.
And so I think...
You are.
Oh, that's nice. So I would think, what would Jessie have me do? What would she like me to do that would put me in favor with her? And I identify those things, and then I would do them because I want to be in favor with you.
Okay, that was important for us to know before we talk about how do we use this for motivating other people.
Mm-hmm.
How do we use it for motivating other people?
So based on what I just talked about with motivating ourselves, how would you transfer that to motivating somebody else?
That's what I want you to say.
Oh, okay. So here's the thing. If you're trying to motivate somebody else, you're going to do the same thing. You got to help them identify who it is that they love, identify positive role models, right? That's what you're looking for, positive role models that they can love and respect, and then helping them to identify the connections. Now, that might be as a parent, it might be yourself that your child is looking up to and wants to be like you, in which case you better be a good example because they're going to want to do what you're doing because what you do is what they think you want them to do.
But it's really important when you're doing this that you don't over-rely on your child's love for you because you don't want to give them a sense that if they love you, they will do this thing, or that you will withdraw your love from them if you don't do that thing.
Yeah, should never.
And so playing on your love and affection for them, you're wanting to encourage them to do it because they love you, but without making them have any hint that your love for them is dependent in any way on their compliance with what you want them to do.
So it's interesting because like for example, very simple things. Like yesterday I was tired after. Well, it wasn't yesterday. It would have been the day before.
You might have been tired both days.
I might have been, but it was when we were eating dinner together, and I wasn't home for dinner yesterday. So
okay.
We're eating dinner. I was tired, and I didn't want to put my dishes in the dishwasher. So guess what? I asked Nelson if he would put my dishes in the dishwasher. And Nelson very happily got up and got my dishes and put them in the dishwasher. And why? What was his motivation to put my dishes in the dishwasher?
Because he loved you. He wasn't doing it because you were going to punish him if he didn't.
Or because I was going to give him a
And you weren't
reward.
giving him any reward for doing it. You were just asking him to do it.
And he did it because he loved me, and that was his motivation to be willing to do it. Now, the day before,
but it wouldn't have
I
been
had-
very good to say, Nelson, if you love me, you'll put my dishes in the dishwasher.
No, probably not. Jesus does say that to us, though. If you love me,
but
keep my commandments.
Yes.
And actually, it is okay to say to your children, if you love me, keep the rules in our home. Absolutely. But it's not okay to say, I won't love you if you don't keep the rules in our
You're
home.
also not talking in this specific instance about a rule. You're asking them to do something as a favor to you.
Right. So
Yeah.
so these are very different things. But here's the thing. What I think is the best tool for getting other people to use love and respect as a way to motivate themselves is, and I do this with my clients all the time, help them find their particular situation in the scriptures. So if they're saying, I'm really struggling with saying my prayers, and this is a client that I had not too long ago. She said, I'm really struggling with saying my prayers, and I feel really bad, and I feel like I'm a bad person because I'm not praying as often as I should.
So you found an example in the scriptures where somebody wasn't praying as often as they should?
So we read in either, I think it's chapter 2 or maybe chapter 3, where the Lord comes to the brother of Jared and says, why haven't you been praying to me? And as we read that, she was like, wow, I didn't realize that the brother of Jared had a period of time where he wasn't praying to God, where he was struggling. And we talked about how this was after the brother of Jared had already been guided by God in many ways, that the Lord had already been.
So how is this looking at the scriptures a tool
Mm-hmm.
for love and respect versus a tool for character because it sounds like you're saying I'm finding people like me,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, there's this great person and they struggled with something. I now identify my character with another character.
Not my character, because we're not identifying character. We're identifying situations. I identified my situation right now of not praying. Not praying is not my character. Remember we talked about that. Not praying is what I'm not doing. But it's not my character, because I know I should pray and I want to pray. That's my character. I'm not following my own character in this case, but it is the situation. And what it is the brother of Jared was somebody that she respects. She looks up to him and honors him as a prophet. Well, if he as a prophet wasn't praying, then that's okay. I've got a belonging. We've created belonging, right? That's that love and respect we talked about. And then what happened? What did the brother of Jared do after God came to him and said, hey,
He repented.
He repented and he prayed. And guess what? As soon as we read that, the next week she came and she said, I prayed every day this week. Why? Because we identified a character that she loved and respected. We identified a prophet who had a situation similar to hers where she could feel belonging.
Okay.
And that allowed her then to follow his example of repentance, and she was able to follow through with that love and respect. Almost always that is when I'm trying to help somebody with love and respect, I'm going to help them find either, and it doesn't have to be in the scriptures. It can be a character in a book. It can be Elizabeth Bennet. It can be Frodo Baggins. It can be you want to find these heroic characters, these heroic people, whether they're actual people in your life or whether they're characters from fiction or whether they're historical people. You want to find the heroic people who are dealing with similar situations to your own. And that's why I tell parents all the time. I can't tell you how many times I've given this assignment. I tell parents, tell your children about the times you were naughty as a child. Tell your children about it, because they need to feel that sense of belonging. They need to feel like my situation and mom's situation, or my situation and dad's situation, are not totally apart from each other. And so it's important to give children that sense of connection and belonging.
Do you have any final thoughts on this subject before we have a homework assignment?
No, I love it. I love
You
this
love love.
level. I love this level of motivation, and it's my favorite to work with people on, because I love helping them find the right people to love and respect, to give them that motivation. That's the last thing.
All right. What's your homework assignment?
Well, the assignment today, I think, really is to
Identify people and things you love.
Yeah, identify people and things you love and categorize them. Are these people leading me to God currently? These people or things, are they leading me to God right now? And are they hurting anybody else? And if the answer
Is my love for them hurting anybody else?
right, if my love for them is hurting somebody else, then it's not. It's a disorganized love, and it's not appropriate. If my love for them is not currently leading me toward God to have a stronger relationship with God, it's also a disorganized love, and you need to a disordered love. So identify the people and entities that you love, and then categorize them in these two different ways. Am I currently being led to God? Am I currently hurting other people through my love for this person or item? And then finally, the last thing is, the last part of the assignment is, think about your situation. What is something that has either been really, really exciting and fun in your life, or what is something that has recently been really, really difficult? And then find somebody that you love with a similar situation.
Okay. We'll see you next time.